Scott with you. We're studying Insight to the End Times. We're looking at events from the scriptures as well as from current events that show where we are in God's timetable, because time on this earth is running out. We're getting close to what we call the end of time. And when the end of time really does arrive, we're going to see the earth go through 7 years of tribulation, the battle of Armageddon, and then we're going to see Jesus Christ come back from heaven to set up his kingdom to rule for 1,000 years. It's called the millennial reign of Christ, and it actually corresponds with the one day of rest referred to in the book of Genesis. 6 days of creation, 1 day of rest, or 1 day equals 1,000 years in the eyes of the Lord. So we're on the verge of that occurring. We've been looking at the 7 trumpet judgments, which are the second group of judgments against the earth in the book of Revelation. I just want to do some review for a few minutes on this first session of this week. In Revelation chapter 8, verse number 7, the first trumpet is sounded, and hail and fire mingled with blood comes out and destroys a third of all the vegetation. In the second trumpet, in verses 8 and 9, we have a mountain of fire and blood that falls into the sea and contaminates 1/3 of all the seas, turning them into blood, killing everything in the seas. Then we had the third trumpet, which is a burning star flung out of heaven towards the earth, and it turns all the third of the fresh water on the earth into bitter water, wormwood, and people die from that. These first 3 trumpet judgments all deal with fire, and they all deal with fire coming against the earth in this second half of the tribulation period. Now, I want to go into the Old Testament for just a brief moment and look at a number of verses with you where God uses fire to bring judgment on the earth. This isn't new. This is something God has done many times. In Psalm chapter 97, verse number 1 says, "The Lord reigns." Verse 3 says, "A fire goes before him, and it burns up his enemies round about him." Verse 5 says, "The mountains melt like wax at the presence of the Lord." So God sends a fire to the earth to burn up his enemies in Psalm 97. In Isaiah 66, verse 15, it says, "The Lord will come with fire and his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire." Once again, another verse dealing with God bringing fire against his enemies. In Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse 8, it says, "In the day of the Lord's wrath, the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he will make speedy riddance of those who dwell in the land." Again, another verse dealing with fire, bringing judgment to the land. In Malachi chapter 4, verse 1, it says, For behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven, and all the proud, yes, all who do wickedly will be stubble, and the day which is coming shall burn them up, says the Lord of hosts. So those who do wicked activities will be like stubble, and they'll be burned up. One last verse out of Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 47. It says, "Hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord God, Behold, I'll kindle a fire in you. It shall devour every green tree and every dry tree in you. The blazing flame shall not be quenched." Wow. 5 different verses from the Old Testament, just a sampling of verses that deal with fire and judgment brought by the Lord against those who are wicked and those who are enemies and those who are opposed to him. New Testament, book of Revelation, end times, 3 trumpet judgments all deal with fire, and more fire. Now, it appears as if God's going to bring a massive amount of fire on the earth. And I want to suggest to you that potentially, possibly, this fire that God's going to use in these very last days will be of a nuclear capacity. Why? Because God's going to destroy the Ezekiel 38 armies that come against Israel, 9 different countries coming against them. He's going to destroy them in 1 day. It will take 7 months to clean things up and bury the dead. And it will take 7 years to gather up all the stuff that's been burned up. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if God does some really amazing things. I'll see you tomorrow. We got a great week coming. Amen.